Where do you come from?
You're listening to Ladies Night on the Provoke and Inspire podcast.
Ladies Night. Ladies Night.
During the day,
0 people are watching. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ben. I'm disappointed. We're going to do that again. Here we go.
Where do you come from?
you're listening to Ladies Night on the Provoke and Inspire podcast.
Ladies Night. Ladies Night.
During the day,
All right. There you are. There you are, people. 3 of you are like here. I'm happy. I'm satisfied. This is the Provoke and Inspire podcast. And this is... This is Ladies Night during the day. I had my computer going in the background. That freaked me out. That threw me off. I don't even know what I said during that time. I hope it wasn't something offensive. Yeah. But anyway, my name is Ben Pierce. I'm the host of this crazy show. We have Jodi Pierce to my right, Courtney Pierce, and Ania Greenwood. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome to you.
Ania, I don't know if she's on, but she's waving in sort of a queen-like state.
Oh, let me see.
She's kind
Ania.
of fuzzy, but I guess, it's...
Can
Yeah.
you hear me?
You're
Yeah.
fuzzy.
We
Your
can-
head is fuzzy.
Your head is fuzzy, but it's possible that, it's kind of like the joke about Bigfoot. Maybe the problem is that he is blurry.
Yeah, maybe that's
That there's a big out of
Yeah.
focus monster out there.
Yeah.
That might be the most terrifying reality of all. Anyway, this is Ladies Night. It's part of the Provoke and Inspire podcast general concept, and we are all about calling followers of Jesus to radical faith outside of the church. That is our heart, and ever since this lockdown struck, ever since this pandemic took over the world, we've increased our episodes to 3 times a week. And part of that has been sort of the birth of Ladies Night. And sorry, girls, if that's do you like that verb? Is that
offensive?
I look at Courtney and she's like, I don't know if I like that verb. What?
I
What
actually
verb?
despise that verb.
What verb? What verb?
Birth.
Birth.
Birth. Oh, no, that's
Birth.
lovely.
That Ladies Night was birthed out of COVID, which is not exciting.
I think birth connotes lovely things, new beginnings, the seasons, birds chirping, and such. Dew on the grass. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, I think this has been awesome. This has been happening every
Yeah.
single week. And I think it's been an amazing addition to our content family. And so it will go on in perpetuity as long as the ladies don't get mad at me and kick me to the curb. So a couple things that you can do. Like I said, we've been doing podcasts Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. They come out the next day, about 24 hours later. We stream them live at 2 p.m. Central Time on the Come and Live Facebook page and the Steiger Facebook page. So you can check that out. If you've missed the past podcast that we've done, you can go to, you can search it anywhere, really. Google, obviously. But then if you go to iTunes or Spotify or Stitcher, you can find and listen to previous podcasts. We've had amazing guests. Jodi looks like she's tired of what I'm saying, and she's listened to me talk for years.
I literally.
Ever since I was probably about 16 months old, I
Oh.
started talking and I never stopped.
That's true.
It was just
Yeah,
like
well-
this machine that you got started, and that was it. It was too
True.
late.
One of your first words was actually.
I was an inquisitive young
I
lad.
just looked at you and went, what?
Actually, my son says that and much worse. So anyway, so those are some things you can do. Go
Worse.
Well, like in I don't know. I love my son. Anyway, so that's one thing you can do. Check out previous.
Hi, Patty.
Patty.
Patty, you're our favorite listener right now.
Yeah.
Sorry,
You-
Gabe.
Patty Herzog, we salute you. Aunt extraordinaire, giver of gifts, booker of hotels, and thrower of Ben's annual events, which
Yeah.
I'm a little bitter because we used to have events in my honor, and I like being honored. But those no longer happen. There's so many grandchildren that I have been moved way out of the top 10 rankings, probably not even in the top 20. But anyway, so I really shouldn't waffle on any longer because it's time for
David's
Oh,
random
dang it.
story.
I hit the wrong button.
Button.
Sorry. Let's do it again. Let's do this again. I'm not going to waffle on any longer because it's time for
Jodi's random story.
Oh,
Ania.
gosh.
Wait, let's do that again.
Yeah.
Wait, come on. Everyone take a deep breath and just enjoy this for a moment. Here we go. It's, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for
Jodi's random story.
I don't know
The
how I
floor
ever
is
got into
yours.
this. Yes, thank you. I don't know
How did she get? I know how you got into this. You married David like 40 years ago or whatever it was.
I know. Okay, here it goes.
Good morning,
Here is-
Graham. Sorry, carry
Graham.
on.
Oh, okay. Now you made me forget. I'm thinking about Graham. Okay, who?
Here, I'll give you another second. You ready?
Jodi's random story. Jodi's random story.
All right, here's my random story for today. A long time ago, when David and I started our life in missions in Amsterdam, we had $200 a month in support. We also had student loans of $150 a month. A month.
Oh, Dave Ramsey is shaking his.
America.
Good old Dave Ramsey is rolling in his grave right now.
He's alive.
Yeah, I know, but just theoretically.
So that meant that we had $50 a month to live on. So one day we didn't have quite enough money for food. So David was speaking somewhere, and so someone from our team and I decided we would go out and look for money on the street.
Oh,
That's
man.
like kind of saying you're going to go to a casino to look for some money.
I know. So, but we were actually really excited and we were confident. Both of us. We just went out and we were excited. And all along the way, we were talking and happy while we walked and looked for money. But after an hour or so, we started to kind of think, maybe we aren't going to find nothing.
Wow,
so
you
we
used a
just-
double negative, just like David. I like that.
I know. All right, we'll do it. We started to wonder if we actually would find anything.
There it is.
Yeah. Okay.
So
we
it's
knew you
just-
were more sophisticated than
Yeah,
that.
there's hope with you, with mother. I was gonna say Jody, and then it felt weird, and I said mother, and now I feel like Milhouse from The Simpsons. But
I know.
keep
I know.
going,
So-
mother.
so-
It's
so
great.
So we slowly just turned back and we went home. And David had gotten back by then, from his speaking, and we told him we had come back empty. So it was really quite a moment. But
Wait. I'm confused. The kids in that? Who was out looking for money?
a member of our team.
Oh, I
and
wasn't
me.
paying attention. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm paying
yeah,
attention. I'm in now.
Yeah, I
I'm
know,
focused.
I know. Yeah, it's all
It's
right.
a
I don't
complicated
mind.
story, so I
Mother,
can
you're
see
gonna-
why you'd lose focus.
Jody, you're gonna have to speed this up. We're getting close
Okay,
to the Bruce
okay,
red
The
line.
moral of the story is don't take out student loans.
Oh, wow. Well, yeah. Well, you know what? I salute that because I'm not for student loans, and inevitably that leads to having to look for
Yeah.
money on the streets. And I think there's a lot of people listening who can relate to that story. So there you have it.
Jodi's random story.
Oh,
Yes.
that's so soothing. I just want to listen to that on
Yeah.
repeat.
Mhm.
While having salts thrown at me or something. I don't know. Anyway, a couple things that you can do to be involved other than listening to past podcasts is to join our Facebook community page. If you type Provoke and Inspire Facebook community, you don't type Facebook. You just type Provoke and Inspire. You'll find that community. You can request access. There'll be a vigorous screening process. Obviously, you'll need to include samples, tissue and such. I don't know. This is getting oddly medical. But after the samples have been tested, this is not really fitting given our times. We don't want to talk about testing right now. But anyway, you will be given access. You can join this community where we carry on the discussions that happen on this podcast.
A lot more in depth than what you might think.
You'd be very surprised.
Yeah.
So please consider doing that. Otherwise, we're going to transition on to the topic of the day. And so we have been doing a series related to what pollutions have this unique time cleared in our lives. And when we do resurface, when we do emerge, what should not come back? What should change as a result of this time? Because I think if we're going to go through this, let's learn something. And so last week thank you, Brianna. I'm on a roll. Apparently, I'm assuming that's in a negative sense, maybe like rolling down a steep hill, because I do that every time I run too fast. But we talked about the idea of, like I said, pollutions that come and go, and what ones should stay away. And last week we talked about vanity. That is a topic that I think you could probably spend a lot more than one episode talking about. It grips a lot of people and causes a lot of destruction. And the one we're going to talk about today, I think, pairs well with it because it is kind of in the same universe of vanity. And it's the idea of perfectionism. Perfectionism is something that grips our world. I think there are unique aspects of it specifically to women. I think it affects everyone. But once again, I think that there's a unique pressure that women face, especially when it comes to this. And so, Jodi, when we were offline here, you were giving kind of what you found as a really good definition for perfectionism. And so maybe you could kick us off with that definition and maybe some of your thoughts related to it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I was listening actually to a TED Talk, and it was Thomas Curran, I think is his name.
Oh yeah, TK. What up?
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't know who that is.
I knew you didn't know him, but man, you are on a roll, Ben.
It's Friday. Look, it's Friday. I have done 3 podcasts, produced 1 video, done 2 live streams, and wrote a blog. My brain is like, kaboosh. But carry
so
on.
It's
well
all right.
done, Ben.
So
well done.
Yeah, and
He needs accolades, Anya. Okay.
and
I don't want to be a missionary, man.
and we won't require you to be perfect.
Yeah,
No, that's true.
Well,
Yes.
too late.
So
There it is.
Sorry.
Go, Jodi, please.
This is Thomas's. He was referring to a study that has been done on perfectionism, which was really good. And I actually read it too, but this is what he said. And it comes from that study. Perfectionism is broadly defined as a combination of excessively high personal standards and overly critical self-evaluations. There's more to it. You can apply that to yourself, the perfectionism, but you could also apply it to others. And then the third aspect of it is people, the pressure you feel from other people to be perfect. So, but that's kind of a quick perfectionism definition.
Yeah. What do you think, Court?
Well, for me, this is kind of a topic that I kind of hits home for me because it's something that perfectionism is something that I used to really struggle with. And I love that definition because I feel like, can you read that one more time?
Of course I can. The first bit. Yep.
Yes, the first bit.
Perfectionism is broadly defined as a combination of excessively high personal standards and overly critical self-evaluations.
Yeah, and so just like those two, excessively high standards and then being critical. And I know for me, the combination of those two things really paralyzed me to even be able to move forward. And that was something that Ben and I were talking about before we started, it's kind of funny and ironic because your desire to succeed, really, that was achieve. But then the irony is that you don't really get anywhere because you're paralyzed because you're so stressed out to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of for me something. So like I had these desires to be perfect, and it wasn't really anybody even putting, I'm an achiever and I'm type A, and obviously just sin in my own life has caused me to want this desire to be really good and excel at things. But then the flip side is it would stress me out so much that I wasn't excelling that then I would just not do anything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No,
Ania.
I totally go ahead.
No, by all means, go ahead.
I just totally understand that, and I just want to, this is really a light thing, but but it's very personal. When I first met Jen, Aaron's our whatever, I don't know how to link. That's my daughter-in-law. And then Courtney later, I went through that process of, okay, because you can kind of think, okay, I have to be a certain way, I have to be perfect or whatever. And I decided really early on,
Oh, come on. You don't want to be perfect for me?
I do. I
I
love
am
you,
so
but
awesome. I deserve it. No.
it's such a false thing. That will last about 22 seconds. So
Yeah.
I just decided at that point,
Mm.
nope, I'm not doing it. But
Mhm.
that's just a little personal thing.
Yeah.
There's much more
Yeah.
to this, but I just
Yeah.
thought I can't do it.
Hmm.
I can't be
An-
perfect.
Yeah.
Anya, how about you give us some initial thoughts on the whole idea of perfectionism, and then we can kind of start to break it down a little bit more.
Mhm.
Mhm. Um, Actually, this is how I became a Christian because personally, I just was always trying to be perfect to prove to everyone, first to my parents that I am capable. To finish my studies, for example, this was the thing in Poland. Like from my generation, everybody had master degrees and PhD and everything. So I had to prove to them, because they both finished studies, that I will do it. Even doesn't matter what was my dreams. My dad was not very happy with my studies, because he felt like there is no future, and maybe he was right. No, but it's just like he just said, whatever you do, you need to have a paper. So there was always this I studied this a little bit on my sociology and ethnology about the difference of the cultures and expectations, because in United States it was a little bit different than in Poland at this time, in at the end of 90s and beginning of 2000. I think you in United States, you had already very high expectations on the children, like what they can receive, like who they are. They needed to know who they are, and we were only just getting there, like on the way, who on identity, like what we want to. We needed to express ourselves, like um what we want to be, and from the beginning we have to fight for it, and we need to know exactly how we will get it. So it was like from teenage years already, like putting this pressure on us. And I know that studied the psychology and pedagogy in United States. I know that you even started earlier, like when you were like 5, 6, 7, when you started to do studies, you had to already know. There was this question: who do you want to be in the future? Like how you want to do things. So I know that every culture is a little bit different, but at the same time, now looking at now, it just, I feel like we are at the same point. This pressure on everyone, like you need to be someone. You have, like if you want to get something, you need to do particular things. You have to do step by
Yeah.
step to get somewhere, and you have huge expectations from yourself. You have expectations from the society, from the close ones, and the lifestyle is just really like a pressure on you.
Yeah.
So I was basically crushed by that. Like I didn't manage to survive. So maybe later on I can tell you this, but I really can relate, like reading different papers from the psychologists and sociologists about that. I was just really like looking, yes, this is a huge problem, and especially now during the quarantine and lockdown and just with coronavirus. I think a lot of people really struggle with this
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah. Yeah. I think in a lot of ways, you can't maintain the illusion of perfection when so much of your routine and things that you do to prop up that perfection have now been stripped away from you. And Brianna brings up a good question about, is perfection related to this longing for perfection that we had in the Garden of Eden? And I think it is that to an extent, although I think for those unaware of the Garden of Eden, there is a sense of eternity, and I think that we do have this longing to be with God and for things to be made right. But the interesting thing I find is, based on that definition of perfectionism that you mentioned, it seems to highlight two things, and that is the standard by which you're judging things and the view that you have in life. And the problem is, we have an impossible standard and a constant self-focus. So if you think about those two things working in combination, no wonder people are miserable.
Yeah.
It's like the perfection is to be a super mom who is never angry. You know, by all means, I'm not a mom. I'm not even an average mom, let alone an angry mom. So I'll let you guys comment on that. But you know, my point is like you're supposed to be all these things. There's check all of these boxes in all of these categories, and then by the way, constantly evaluate yourself. Look at yourself all the time.
Yeah.
Do you think some of this has to do with a false standard and a overemphasize on self? Isn't that some of this, Courtney?
Yeah, for sure. And I think even obviously I've only been a mom for 4 years. So my issues with perfectionism came long before I was even a mother. But I feel so blessed that God released me from that before this, because now that I'm in this position, I'm like, whoa, if I still, of course, it's something that I still have to give to the Lord. But if it was something that I really still struggled with, it would crush me, because just the need to, like, I actually feel very released that like, it's okay if like, I am not a homeschool mom and I despise home projects. Like when they do those sensory tables with like rice and no, thank you. Like not doing it. Okay. And like, I feel so released. It's like, that is not what I am good at. Like we can go run outside. We can sing in our house. We can bake. That's fine. I'm not making a sensory table, even if you pay me. Okay.
I think it's worth mentioning that Macklin and I, my 4-year-old son and I made muffins.
No, cupcakes.
I don't even know. From scratch.
Completely. No box, you guys. Anyways, so he obviously is taking on the role of housewife. Ben. Okay.
Yeah. Hey, they tasted great. They look like garbage, but just go ahead and call me super
They
mom.
use like 3 sticks of butter. It's fine.
I followed the recipe.
We're in a pandemic where there's a shortage of butter and they use 3 sticks.
2.5 sticks and all of the margarine. We don't have margarine.
No, okay. Anyways, back to the point. Just like with moms, like you have to have it all figured out on how to be a mom. You have to be in control of your whole schedule. And also on top of all of that, you should be really good at disciplining your kids, leading them to the Lord and in teaching them Bible study at home. And then also maybe have a full-time job on top of that. And this isn't just like fake things that I'm listing off. This is real expectations that are placed on moms. And I know, and Ben and I were discussing like it, just because we're women, we're obviously going to focus on that, but guys have their own things of that society is just pounding on them. And then on top of it, you're forced to like self-evaluate all the time. And that's considered a positive thing.
Yeah. 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 What do you think, Jodi?
I was just thinking about it. I was just thinking about what you were saying. I mean, what a horrible combination. You know, it doesn't matter who you are. You have to do this, and this, and this, and this, and this. I mean, that's crazy just to start off with, because each of us are different. And that's the incredible thing about God, is he sees us, each of us differently, and says, I put this in you. And that's awesome. But then the whole, just looking at yourself and just being self-absorbed. I mean, that combination, so you're trying to be something you're not even. Yeah. But then you're just thinking about, what about me? And how does that look? And, but I mean, that's a recipe for craziness.
Yeah. And like the kind of what you were saying, the saddest thing in all of it is that God made us all so uniquely different. And it's not even like a cute thing to say, like, you have your own gift. Like you really do have your own gift. And if you are forcing yourself to fit this mold, this perfect mold, you're not exploring the person who God has asked you to be and called you to be and has a plan for your life. And then you might never find it. Yeah. And so and I think it kind of spirals into just the dissatisfaction of our world and why people are so unhappy and lost, because they are not being true to who they are and like what really makes their heart feel alive. They're never experiencing that because this endless game of perfectionism.
Yeah.
I know.
I agree what you said, Courtney. I think it's very strong what you said. And I think I think this is something that really God spoke to me a lot now during this whole month, about how we are trying to put wrong shoes on us. Like we see these beautiful shoes. There's a really good TV series about that, IT Crowds. I love it because there is a one about the red shoes, and she's trying to put it
not the red shoes,
sizes smaller.
There's a song about red shoes here.
That's not
Anyway,
good.
inside
Go.
joke. Carry
Okay.
on.
Go on, you go.
All right.
You're doing
So
good.
anyway, so she's trying to put even 2 sizes smaller shoes because she loves them. And it's like when she will come, everybody will look and they will say, wow, they are just perfect red shoes. And sometimes I feel like this is what we do. I laugh a lot watching this yeah, this TV series, but this was like really like showed me how much we are trying to put something that it's not created for us and
Mm.
trying to do the way
Mhm.
to look nice for others. And
Mhm.
we are not like really, I think we are just bombed, like there is like explosion around us with all of these ideas, all of these books, how to be perfect mom, how to do the perfect children, you know, like how everything needs to be amazing, and what happy life and family and husband and everyone will be you know, around you if you will do this. But actually it's just like we need to find the right shoes. We need to look and see, this is created for me, I need to wear them and I need to feel comfortable, and now I know that I can run this race.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is really like, I think the expectations nowadays from yeah, we are talking about women, but about men, about everyone, is just too much. So we
Yeah.
need to really like start to analyze. I have now time, finally just feel like, okay, what is really my race, what is my run, which shoes are perfect for me for my run.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also letting go of the run completely. I know that sounds weird, but it's like I agree we need to find our lane, right? We need to find out who we are, but a lot of the messaging in our culture is be you, find out who
Yeah.
you are, find out what
Yeah.
will make you happy. I think it's actually losing that desire in a sense and just being content. I mean, it's like it's a
Well, asking for God's
yeah.
idea,
Yeah.
God's shoes, if you want to put it that way. Like
Yeah.
what you have this
Yeah.
idea, and what does God want you to be?
Well, and I think isn't it beautifully exemplified in children? It's like you look at kids and they're not trying to be anything, not early on, especially. I mean, as they grow older, they start to take on that baggage from the world. But initially, they're simply being who they are, and it's very natural and it's very whimsical and it's very beautiful to watch. And I think that we lose that in time because we start to buy into the lie that we can control things. One quote from an article on Christianity Today about perfectionism says, perfectionism is simply an addiction to control and a refusal to accept perfection in some human endeavor." You know, and it's this idea that we want to control everything, and there is a degree of you like you said, you find who you are when you stop looking in a way, when you kind of start letting go and just being content and being happy to be who God has made you to be. That is kind of then when you start to figure out where you fit. I don't know, it's kind of my thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like in James, you know, like there's this verse that, you know, like you reading the word of God, when you look at the mirror, it just like you know who you are.
Hmm.
And I agree. Well, you know, I think this was missing. You're right. We are just I don't want to put any humanistic way of thinking about, you know, myself, but really looking at the word of God. We are studying this every day now. Like we just finished book of Daniel with our team, and I just really, it's just incredible, like how looking at these times and this, you know, heroes of faith, looking at them and looking what was the relationship between, for example, Daniel and God, and how he knew who he is and he knew who God is. It just how it really protected him, that he was not afraid in so many, you know, like lions dens, or, you know, just
Mhm.
because God really knows what's the best for us. And this is this, you know, amazing thing that we have. We can just look at him, we can look at his word, and we know who we are. We know which shoes are for us. So it's
Yeah.
just
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. It, one thing I'm thinking about, because I agree. Of course, it's based in understanding how God has made us. So that's what we need to do. That's our goal, is to go to Him and allow Him to create us or develop us into
Yeah.
that beautiful thing that He had in mind, because it is beautiful for every person. But the flip side of it is like what is out there in society is that it's all based in ourselves, and it's just such a horrible, it's like a drain you go down, it's a dark hole, where you just there's no happiness. It's just, you can never make yourself perfect. So we so are in desperate need of God's way of doing it. And maybe a little bit later we can talk about just how that we have so much to give to each other, but if we're so focused on ourselves, we can't even think about the guy next to us. And that's a whole thing of how it plays out with the people as we die to ourselves, basically, and let God bring life.
Yeah.
What we can be to each other.
Yeah, I think what's so insidious about this whole thing is that we can sit here and say, we are all different, right? God's made us different. In the Christian worldview, we're many members of one body under one head. We're uniquely gifted. But the problem is our culture does not elevate things equally. It doesn't. We live in the real world, which says these gifts matter more. These looks are the ones you want. This is the standard. And we're surrounded and bombarded by messaging that does not promote equity. It doesn't. And so the reality is, it is a brutal fight. It is a brutal fight because our world says, no, the driver's not as important as the rock star. I'm sorry, it's not. And so you got to have a whole lot of just forget it to be content if you're not one of the people that society says matters. And so don't you think part of this is just, I don't want to make light of this because I think part of what's so hard is that we're being told, even by our Christian world, right? Because our Christian world says, this is how you act. This is how you look. This is what your family needs to be like. You never go through any struggles. You got to be the one, you got to be in the worship team. You got to be the pastor. Even pastors today, it's like, it's not good enough to be a pastor anymore. You got to be an author, a pastor, a blogger, a podcaster, an influencer, big on social media. It's not enough to be, I heard a quote recently this from a French philosopher, and it says, it's now embarrassing to be faithful and not successful. It's no longer enough to be faithful. You need to be successful. So how much of this is just that we live in a brutal world that tells us not all things are equal?
Well, and I think that a lot of these topics, and especially perfectionism, the only way you overcome it is by an act of God. And something I was really praying about the last few mornings was just this idea that we allow God to work supernaturally in our life, and that we don't become too academic in how we deal with problems. So of course, like perfectionism, there are probably some steps we can take to understand in a knowledge sense why it's never going to be possible to overcome these things. And of course, we are Christians, so we can view this issue and this sin from a perspective of its sin, and also asking Jesus to supernaturally come into our life and deal with us. And I think that we don't often deal with issues in our life in that way, or it becomes like not serious if you talk about like a serious problem by saying like, well, I'm praying that God would have, supernatural guidance for me. That almost isn't good enough. And I feel like for me personally, I think that we've kind of lost sight of this God's amazing ability to redeem circumstances in our life.
And I think that is, you articulated what I wasn't able to express, but I was thinking, which is that's
because I'm smarter than you.
Yeah, it's that. And also I want to point out that my chair is super low. And so I just look tiny today.
No,
it's like
you weren't looking tiny until you just something went.
Yeah, she's like, oh, isn't that cute? She married like a little newt, like that little guy,
Okay,
And
stop talking before you say something inappropriate.
Anyway,
okay?
hold on. I got to elevate my status.
I was on a roll, and then Ben just derailed us again.
Anyway, what I was trying to say, what I was trying to say is that this is yes, it's a human, we can diagnose it in a human sense, but man, this is a really big problem. And I think, and Jodi, you can jump right in here, but what it reminds me of is where it talks about in James and the power of the tongue, right? And it says, it's impossible to tame the tongue. but not for God.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of the paradox. That's the tension that I think we're talking about when it comes to things like vanity and perfectionism. We're not saying there's easy solutions to this.
Mm.
It may be even impossible for a human in a
Yeah.
human world to overcome perfectionism, but it's not impossible for God. And that's,
Yeah.
I think, what you articulated and what I couldn't quite get out of
Yeah.
my head.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah,
Jodi.
but
Oh, sorry, Ania, you
No.
can go. No, you're good.
Whatever.
no, I just
People are we're too nice.
girls.
Somebody better go, or I'm going to swoop
Lady
in.
in
Because he has a
All
lot
right.
to say always.
It's because this subject is so broad,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
just so it's we're
Yes.
kind of
So good,
picking at
though.
things. So it's
Yeah.
good.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
love it. So you
Yeah.
keep going. Whoever wants to.
Anya, go. Boom. Polish wisdom.
Yeah. Mm. No, I'm just because I was actually writing my testimony a few days ago, and I was just thinking about that it's actually topic and problem of perfectionism, that I was trying to get something that in perfectionism it's not possible. Basically, this is like a never ending circle that you
Mhm.
whatever you want you get, you are never satisfied.
Yeah.
You always want to get something more. You always are, this one step behind. You just need to get more and more and more. Even if you get the best result, it's like in doing a film, you just like when you edit, you always find like, oh, if I will do this and do this.
Mm.
So many filmmakers just don't finish films because of that, because they never are satisfied, and then it just like they change mind and stuff. So so I was just really thinking about that, how is with God, and this image, it just came to me that when somebody was praying for me, invited me for the first time to the prayer meeting, and I was broken. I was already 3 months without sleeping. I just was totally destroyed with depression, with just suicidal thoughts, and I just end up in this Bible, this Bible study prayer time, and the girls were just received me really nicely, just say like, come. And I was in the stage that I couldn't even explain what's happening, because I really inside, I just knew that I have a bomb in my head and it's going to explode, and I don't know what to do about that. I just said, this is the last chance. I'm coming here because this is the last thing that can maybe help me. And then when they were praying, I closed my eyes and I had this vision that I'm driving the car and I'm going straight to the cliff, to the edge of the cliff, and I'm going to die. And then suddenly I saw the guy sitting to me next to me and said, like, you don't have to die. And the girls asked me, do you want to give your life to Jesus? And I didn't know what doesn't mean. But I remember I took my hands off the steering wheel and I said, yes. And you know what? It's just like something just destroyed this bomb. It just basically, it became like a needle inside of my head, just like doing to the balloon, like poof, and it just disappeared. And I remember it was just this freedom. I fall asleep and I woke up like a newborn baby. And I remember
Mm.
coming back home with the Bible and reading the gospel after gospel and seeing that Jesus loves me, whatever I do, whatever I am. It's just like whatever. It's just like he loves me. He died for me. And that's the power of the gospel. This is the power, what Jesus wants to tell us. He loves us, whoever we are, whatever we do. And it's just like it's giving this amazing peace. So just like whoever is listening, or just have maybe people around with the same problem, because depression is just the result, of course, of the perfectionism, trying to be somebody that we can't be. But God can give us freedom. God can
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
us free from it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I jump in there just because it's so good? Anya, that was very, very good.
That was
And
amazing.
very,
Yeah.
very important. So I was just, again, from this study, that this Thomas Curran said, or Curran, he said, the need to be perfect or appear perfect is a strategy that is adopted to compensate for, repair, and protect a damaged sense of self-worth
Wow.
through the continual approval of others.
Yeah.
And there's more,
Wow.
but it's just that. And and we have to, like you said, we have to start over and become like a newborn baby,
Yeah.
you know,
Or like a
and get
kid, like I was saying, they don't
Mhm.
live that way at all. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. And
Mm.
but that's what is, I mean, it's so common. This just
Mm.
drive, this obsessive drive to
Mm.
have approval because we need it.
Mhm.
We are, but where do we get it? Where do we get that
Yeah.
approval?
Yeah.
And so it's
Yeah.
awesome.
And the sad verb in there for me is continual.
Mm.
It's
Mhm.
just continual. And you
Yep.
guys have talked about that. Anya, you
Mm.
referred to that. And all of you have, is this, it never
Mm.
ends. And, you know, it's even psychologically speaking, 1,000 compliments will go over your head, but that one damaging
Mhm.
word, that one
Yes.
damaging experience will stick with you for years. And that says a lot about it. And of course, that doesn't let us off the hook, right?
Yeah.
We need to care and be cautious. I think that's why the Bible puts such high
Mm.
value on words. Why
Mhm.
there's such stern warnings against careless words, how it says you will be held accountable for every careless word that you have spoken. I mean, if anyone should be terrified of that, it's me. But you know, you need to be cautious because words are damaging.
Mhm.
And so we do need to treat people very carefully, like they are the image bearers of the king, which
Mm.
they are. But man, it comes back to what you said, Courtney, and what you
Yes.
illustrated, Anya, which is that we've got to have a supernatural
Mm.
rebirth.
Yeah.
We need to have a restored self, because until that vacuum is turned off, it's just going to keep sucking more and more
Mm.
approval into itself, and it's never enough. It's like when you have, if you've ever done something dumb like me where you vacuum but you didn't have the filter on, so you're just sucking stuff and it's just spitting out into the air. It's kind of what it's like. It doesn't get you anywhere. You just have to have more and more and more, and it doesn't accumulate and it doesn't go anywhere. I'm not sure if that analogy made
He
sense.
can only use that analogy because he did that last week,
I did.
and I was very upset.
I'm an idiot. Are you happy?
Ah.
Oh, so where do we go from here? I mean, if someone, you know, okay, have a supernatural experience, go ahead and do
Right.
that. Courtney, where do they go for that?
Well, it's God is not a magic genie, so it's not just gonna happen. And I think perseverance is probably the first key. And like even in that definition, Jodi, it made me even think like, I mean, the only answer to this is Jesus, because it is a continual fight against sin, and it's not solvable in
Humanly,
the human world. And I think even it might, in this time of quarantine, it's a perfect time to hear from God. And I know for me, I would say, because again, I'm more type A, I probably haven't always focused how I should on the fact that God is able to speak supernaturally to me. And I wouldn't even say it's hard for me to hear him, but that's just not necessarily the best way, like, you know, a supernatural experience, like Anya, you having that vision. That's not the best way that God speaks to me. But sometimes I think that's the way that he needs to speak to us. And we need to be open to that. And that might be the biggest issue, is that we're not open to God speaking to us in a supernatural way. And I'll just quickly say that our old bass player, Joe, who actually passed away, so this story is even more special to me, at the kind of the pinnacle of this control of my life, where I was just dealing really with perfection, and also really struggling to hear from God at the same time. We were in Germany on a tour, and Joe handed me a note, and he said, "Oh, like God told me to give this to you." And I'm like,
And he was a very quiet guy
Quiet,
that
yeah.
never really said
and also
much.
me being the jerk that I am, and just like I'm not that. I have a lot of strengths. So I'm not saying I don't have strengths, but I'm not emotive. I'm not overly emotional. And so somebody kind of speaking that to me, I'm more like the skeptic, like, yeah, okay, like I need some facts behind this. And so I opened up the note, and it said, perfection was never a requirement. And it just, like a million bricks in a great way, just fell on my body. Like this boy who I know, but has no idea what I am personally struggling with every day, where it's like even hard for me to get out of bed in the sense that I cannot find joy in anything because I feel so weighed down by this need to be perfect. And he just hands me this note, and it literally, and I still have it in my Bible, perfection was never a requirement. And I'm just like, okay, Lord, like you are so capable of taking away even the deepest sins in our life. And really, I know that there are a lot of life circumstances that will lead people to having, hurts, but ultimately we are still in control of our sin in our life, even if outside sources are influencing them. So I'm not saying it's easy, but God can still redeem that sin that you are still allowing to kind of build and fester and grow inside of you. And for me, I was allowing that desire for control to keep growing and expanding, and it was my own problem. What maybe was outside influence had all of a sudden become my own problem over the years of just never letting go of that.
Wow.
That like tight grip, and that's like a perfect image of it. Just this like tight grip of whatever. And it just took our sweet bass player who liked me and knew me, and we had a great time eating gummy bears in the van, but he didn't know me in that personal, deep way. And he just passed me this note. And for me, that has been like this sign in my life, like God is going to speak to you, even if you're running away from him. So I guess I don't even know. Sometimes I think we don't even have like a good Calvinist response. We don't have to do anything to get the response from God. But I do think that we can ask him for his voice to be audible, and he will speak to us and redeem the brokenness in our life. Sorry, that was a long story.
No,
it's good. Oh, it's seriously, it's really good. Both of you girls. It's of course one thing that comes from that is the power of words, of just what Joe was able to just be an instrument in your life, because of his words. So it's awesome. And that's, I don't want to mess with this because I feel like God is in this conversation. So, we could talk about what we can be to each other and how beautiful community is. It's kind of a whole nother subject, but it's I have verses like in Philippians 2, it's talking about, let me just read it and then you guys think and figure this out because it's so good. This is Paul talking, and it says, therefore, if you have any encouragement from being united with Christ, if any comfort from his love, and if any common sharing in the Spirit, if any tenderness, which is what Joe was, and
he was a very sweet,
compassion,
tender guy too.
then make my joy complete by being like-minded, not self-focused, but having the same love, being one in spirit and of one mind. We're in this together. We hear that all the time, but it's true. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking at your own interest, but each of you in the interest of the others, just like Jesus did. So that's what we're supposed to be to each other.
Yeah, I think, and oh, man, we could go on for a long time with this particular topic. I just think to kind of boil it down, we need soul restoration. We need restoration at the deepest level of who we are, and just getting older doesn't mean you're going to do that, right? And we're all going to pick up wounds, and some of us worse than others. But I think we need to be healed at that core level. And of course, words are powerful because God spoke words, and as a speaker of words, they inhabit a power and a life to them that then we are capable of receiving as well. We can speak life or death with our words, and I've done both. I feel like I've been used to speak life into people, but I've also said things that have hurt people, and I think we all have experienced that. So I think we need to go to God, and he's a good dad. And I think if we go to him and with an honest heart and say, I at the core of who I am restless. I feel inadequate. I feel overwhelmed by the standards I see around me. And if I'm honest with you, God, I don't know if I even can or want to change. I think he can receive that kind of honesty from him to say, I don't even know where to start. But I do believe he will meet us. The Bible is clear. If we ask anything in accordance with the will of the Father, it will be given to us. Well, why would God not answer a prayer like, God, let you be my standard. Strip me of this world's standards. Let you be my standard. And we have to, like the widow before the unjust judge, we might have to keep asking and not give up. that's kind of my first thing. And the other thing is, let's be Joe to one another.
Yeah.
My goodness, let's
Yeah.
let's take risks and hear from the Holy Spirit
Yeah.
and be that for one another, because you just don't even realize
Yeah.
like how one simple gesture, and he probably forgot that gesture days, weeks, if not days after that, but that had a profound impact on the rest of your life.
Mhm.
And so let far from being what the world is to
Yeah.
us as followers of Jesus, we have something so attractive. We can be filled with him
Yeah.
so that we can give to others.
Give life to others. Yeah.
Right. And people should be flocking to us for that very reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
Very,
yeah,
very, very
it's so
cool.
strong what you said, Ben. I just was thinking about the same thing. I really feel that perfectionism, it's not only harm for us, like individually, but it can really, especially thinking about me as mom, how much my perfectionism can kill my children. You know what I mean? Can the control that we want to give, and
Damage.
like that we, especially like what the word is saying, like to be, this and this and this you need to do. So you as mom, you're thinking, oh, I am responsible for the life of my child, so he needs to do this and this and this, thinking especially about my son, like doing homeschooling now. I was like, always I feel like, am I blessing him or cursing him by expecting from him to be somebody that he's not? Maybe I should help him to develop and be somebody that he is really created by God, not what I think is the right thing for him to be. So looking at God also, I learn a lot how he's amazing father. He's giving us freedom, he's telling us who we are, but also like, he's not controlling us. He gave us really like freedom to say, okay, this is who you are, this is the word of God, look there and just be who I created you to be.
Yeah.
And if we can do it also for our children, but people around us, because this is not only for our children, I'm talking about the closest ones, but even people that we work with, that we spend time, how can we damage them trying to put these shoes on, they're perfect for you because I need
Yeah.
you run this race,
Yeah.
and so that's why just like it's really really yeah, very very important what you said, Ben.
Yeah. And we got to wrap it up here, but like consciously and intentionally elevate all the gifts.
Yeah.
One thing that I think we do pretty well in No Longer Music, we try in the band I'm part of, is we try to honor the drivers, the tech guys, and there is this real sense in our band that doesn't matter who you are, you're part of bringing the gospel to people. And I think it's a microcosm for how you can kind of kill this cultural disparity, where some things are elevated above others. Also, don't listen to the machismo culture of, if you're a guy, I don't compliment, or, I think, no, let's be the kind of people who pray for one another. One thing we do in our band is if David senses that the prayers are getting kind of slow and people are losing focus, he'll say, pick someone in this group and pray for them. And it's like, oh man, this is going to take like another hour. But it's amazing. These become yeah, well, it's true. If I'm tired.
It's true. Or 2 hours.
And these become really profound moments because you intentionally speak life into someone else. And I just don't think we do that enough in a proactive way. It's horrible. I mean, like Veronica says here, she was in a family where she could have no feelings. She couldn't cry. She couldn't laugh. I mean, this kind of stuff is horrible. It's horrible. And so we as a community of believers should fight that proactively and go against that. So guys, this is really important. I need you to see evidence of my baking skills.
I thought you were going to say something really.
Look at that.
Oh,
Now,
look
she's
at
holding one of my cupcakes. That's Tava, my daughter.
Tava.
Now, the reason I had this picture was because it would distract you from my cupcake and you would just see my beautiful daughter and you wouldn't even think about how terrible my cupcake looks. But anyway, so guys, this is awesome. Oh man, this could go on for many, many hours. I so appreciate your hearts. For those who enjoyed this will come out tomorrow around 1 p.m. Central Time. Look up Provoke and Inspire, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, anywhere. Send this to someone who needs this. I think there are people who are listening who know of people themselves and others who need to hear this message, who need to find community where they can find healing. So share this podcast. I think that would really maybe be a start of a conversation. Join our podcast community page and connect with us there. Let us help you. Otherwise, there's the Hope Beyond Fear movement that we've continued to launch that I've been mentioning almost every week here, which is your opportunity to get involved and to share something, a video, make a sign, hold it up, post it. We also have a Hope Beyond Fear campaign on steiger.org/Hope Beyond Fear, where you can find out ways to get involved, to contribute, to be part of bringing Jesus to a pretty afraid and pretty alone world right now. So, ladies, this has been lovely. I mean, you know, this, I don't know. I just felt like this was necessary.
Put Tava back up.
Hey, I do. Yeah, put Tava back up. I do need to mention that we've got something very exciting. I'm scrambling to get the image here because for some reason it was up and then it was gone. On Monday, we have a podcast and we are asking the question, is the band getting back together? I don't know.
Ooh.
Maybe.
The suspense is killing me. That's actually Jodi's head cut out.
There I am right there. The rollerblader.
Yeah. Jodi offered up a
No,
picture
you're
of
the
herself.
fruit
Yeah,
booter.
that's me.
That's
Oh.
fruit. That's fruit booting. Okay, it's fruit booting.
I've heard. I've heard.
All right, love you guys. Thanks for listening.
you.
This has
Peace.
been Ladies' Night during the day. We love you. Peace out. Boom.
Thanks for listening to the Provoke and Inspire podcast. To listen to past episodes, search Provoke and Inspire on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever podcasts are found. See you next time.